Welcome to the Life Makeovers podcast. My name is Cindy D. Whitmer, and I am the Midlife Makeover Coach, helping you turn your midlife into your best life, one step at a time. Through powerful conversations, my own midlife roller coaster story, and over 3 decades of helping people transform their lives through counseling and coaching, I am on a mission to help you create your own definition of success and happiness. Thank you for being here. Jamie Berris, welcome to the Life Makeovers podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm very grateful that you asked me to be a guest.
Oh, well, I'm so thrilled. Jamie and I haven't known each other too long, but we've been students together in a business coaching program and working on our own personal and professional development in some of those similar experiences, and just I just felt a connection to you and you to me. It must have been magic. We decided to reach out, and so it's been a fun, evolving thing for me. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Jamie is a coach. She's an author. Well, I'll let you introduce yourself. What do you want us to know, the listeners to know about you before we get started?
Well, my name is Jamie Berris, and I am a life coach. Results Life Coaching is the name of my business, but I'm also a writer. I've written 2 women's fiction books, and now, of course, my pen is turned a little bit towards the nonfiction and writing more life coaching things, but I do plan to get back to fiction. But I'm a mom of 4 kids, 20, 18, 12, and 9. So that's a whole nother ball game. Wow. And, I just love connecting with people. That's my number one thing. And I'm just by nature a helper and a supporter. So that's mostly, what I love to be and do.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're one of those midlifers who still have kids at home, and you have some kids grown and have flown the coop a bit. So wow. So way back when you thought about being in midlife, like what did you think it would be like?
Not anything like it is, right?
Not anything like it is.
Right. It's funny because when if I really reflect on that question, I immediately get thwarted back to childhood, and I laugh at myself, but I can see just through little statements or things that kids say, whether boy or girl, when you're growing up. A lot of people I think have the same mentality, and it is the thinking that when I'm an adult, everything's going to be so easy. You're in school and you have the homework and the tests and the drama with the kids. Everything is so hard growing up. Your parents are telling you what you have to do. And then, you get in high school and college, there's the boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. So when I'm married, then it's going to be easy. I'm going to be secure. It's like, there's no responsibilities in adulthood. Does it? It's like, what are we thinking when we're young, and then right. Then the reality kicks in. You are an adult and then midlife. And wow, if we could only be a kid again, right? So no, it's not anything like you expected, but that can be twisted either way. It could be a really good thing or it can be a really bad thing. And I feel midlife now has given me, but it should give everyone the opportunity to really look back and reflect on, okay, what did work for me? What didn't work for me? Who am I right now? Am I where I wanted to be? Most important, am I being the person I was created to be? Am I being me? Am I authentic? Am I living out my vision and my dreams? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I have that sense of purpose? And am I living in line with that? We all have values, and sometimes we have to stop and think, what are they again? And realign ourselves and ask ourselves, am I living within those values? And I think when you are living in line with your values and your purpose, you automatically live a fulfilled life, and we don't have to chase happiness so much. So I think midlife gives us that perfect opportunity to step back and evaluate. And I don't feel I had not necessarily like the smarts to do that even 15 years ago or 10 years ago. I didn't take the time. I didn't think a whole lot about it. You were so laser focused on go, 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 achieve,
Yes.
And in midlife, it catches up and you have that opportunity to pause, take a breath and think about it. And I've done that work. And I think that's part of why I do the work with coaching is so many people are missing it and living very unfulfilled lives, and you don't have to.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of women find themselves in midlife reflecting and they don't always like what they see. And a lot, I find, I don't know about you in your connection to women and the work that you do, but I find many of them lost, like looking for purpose. They don't know why they're here, or their lives have changed a lot in midlife. Maybe the marriage is over, or maybe the kids are grown and gone, or maybe the career is, no longer satisfying, or they don't, it's like all these things are going on, and it's like, or they feel stuck in a rut, and life doesn't feel very meaningful or purpose filled for them. I have so many women say to me, what's my purpose? I don't know what my purpose is anymore. So how do you navigate that, or help people navigate that, or find out who they actually are so they know they can be themselves, or what's authentic for them? You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying because I was there. And I think so many women find themselves there. They don't know how to get out because it's a slow, it's a slow path, or it's a downward spiral, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years. And you wake up one day, I'm lost. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know my direction. I don't know my purpose. Like, what's the meaning? Like, what do I do with myself? And I can remember feeling, almost guilty for feeling that way, because I do have a good life. I'm in a happy marriage. I have 4 healthy kids. We have first world problems, right?
Yes.
And how dare you feel less, I don't want to say less than, how dare you say like, oh, I just got to find my purpose. It sounded shallow. And I think I just skirted around it. You just, oh, I'll be fine. You just keep powering through, but it lingers. And I think a couple breaking points for me were, I didn't understand what depression was. I thought depression was you don't get out of bed, sort of thing, or you're crying all day. And that was never me. But I really could tell I was feeling very lackluster. I wasn't excited for the things that I normally was. Where was my drive? I've always had that drive. Where are all these things? And I started really longing for that. Like, how do I get that back? How do I find her again? And I kept thinking, I used to be so blank, I'd fill in the blank. And I just really missed that. And I knew there was a part of me that was lost. And I like to title that now. At the time it didn't connect this way, but I had self-abandoned, very much so.
Oh.
Yes. And that was through, I think, a lot of conditioning from all kinds of outside sources, whether it's just society in general, or, your friend groups, or, the family of origin, just everything around us, what we pick up on of how we're supposed to be as a mom, a wife, whether we're supposed to work or not work, or what does that look like? How do you juggle that? And how can you be everything to everybody and really take care of yourself? And I think what so many women do. I just will care less about me and more about everyone else. And then I'm going to feel fulfilled and good.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Backfires, doesn't it? It's like we put everybody else first.
Mm-hmm.
To partner, the spouse, the kids, the job, the organization, the school, the church, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we're like last on the to-do list.
Mhm.
So that self-abandonment you're talking about is where
Mhm.
we forget about our own needs, or think that it ought to be enough that we have the house and the marriage or the kids or the white picket fence or
Mhm.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Whatever logistics it all adds up, that ought to be enough. That the
Mhm.
kids are healthy and happy and thriving and
Mhm.
whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the self-abandonment comes when we forget who we are as
Mhm.
individual people first. We were individuals first before we became wives or partners or mothers or CEOs or
Sure.
volunteers or whatever all we are. And so getting reconnected to the essence of ourselves is the coming home, right? So
Yeah.
we can feel better, so we can lift that mood
Mhm.
and respond to that longing with a purpose-filled, meaningful existence that's
Yeah.
not just others focused, right?
Right. And I remember too feeling for several years that it was very hard to put into words. Finally told my husband one day, I'm I'm never alone, and yet I'm lonely.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, I felt that when my kids were little. I
Yeah.
felt that exact thing. So, and I interrupted you. Go ahead. Say more.
No, and I know but I know it's great that you did, because so many women feel that way, but you feel guilty for saying that. I'm with my kids all day and I'm so lonely.
Yeah.
It took me many years to realize that I was disconnected with me.
Yes.
And when I learned to reconnect with myself, that loneliness went away. Because I did for a while. Then I tried to fill it with more people. I'm going to have more people over. I'm going to go out with friends more. I'm going to get involved in, that club, this organization, volunteer for this, volunteer for that. Pretty soon my plate was so full. I was so, that crazy busy wearing that badge. And I was so worn out and exhausted from that. It made everything worse. And again, questioning, well, what is it? What is wrong with me? Why do and I really, for a while, I even said, it's like, I'm miserable inside, but I don't know why. Like, I couldn't, like, what is it that's missing? And this is a lot behind my whole idea of my coaching business is it's developing your relationship with yourself. And I realized I had broken that relationship with me. I had let her go. I had ghosted her. And I like to call it, being a sellout to myself. I really abandoned her. I stopped listening to her. I stopped taking care of her needs. I didn't even let her voice her opinions or her wants. I became a big people pleaser. And a lot of that was I've never been one to handle like chaos or friction or fighting. And so I became, and if you would have told me at the time I was controlling, I would have, I would have fought you tooth and nail. But looking back, I was very controlling because I was always trying to control the environment around me, to keep the peace, to make sure, if someone was bickering or fighting, or someone was just upset, or, it could have been a friend that called me, that just wanted to dump something on me. I made it my mission to fix, rescue, and save your problems.
Yes.
I never realized that was controlling or manipulative. And I never realized what I was doing was avoiding the stuff in me that I needed to fix, that I needed to resolve and rebuild. And so it becomes this vicious cycle, right? Where you're overdoing, you're seeking something that you feel is going to fill these voids in you, and it does more harm than good.
Yes.
And I hear so many women say, I'm in a funk. And I think a lot of women get in that funk and they don't get out.
Yeah, I think a lot of them never even understand how they got there or what that funk actually is. But it is a missing of yourself for sure. I love you said ghosting yourself. That's such a great way to explain it. One of the ways that I explained it in my own life is that I was watching myself disappear in my own life. Like my thoughts were no longer valid. My feelings didn't matter. What I wanted was like not even on the list anymore. I mean, I just wasn't there. It was like I wasn't there, even though I was there, trying to be all things. I was running a nonprofit counseling center, raising kids, trying to stay married and be happy in that. And I was volunteering at the school, and I was volunteering at the church, and I was on the board in this, for this organization and that organization. And so I was busy, exhausted, like you explained, and trying to be, a solution to everything and everyone. And but I was disappearing. Like where was Cindy? Like, where was her, like her essence, I mean, though,
Right.
all our roles we play, that felt like a genuine part of me.
Yes.
But the individual Cindy, where did she go? Like, I just felt like I was disappearing.
And even as you speak, it brings up, I can remember the realization one day when it dawned on me, I'm avoiding me.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm doing that through staying really busy.
Yes.
And I, for a good chunk of 10 years, I would call myself, predominantly a stay-at-home mom. And I would, I was doing some fiction writing and things like that, but that was, an hour here during nap time, or just tiny little pockets. But I didn't realize how it is not selfish to take those times out for yourself and do what fulfills you. And I did long actually to work. I wanted to work part-time, but with 4 kids, it's tough. And, with a 12-year span, I mean, there was 3-ish years where they were in 4 different schools. And I can remember some days I was obsessed with counting how many times I went up and down the driveway. And there were days where it was 16 times I was leaving the house. I'm like, because just with where we live and the busing situation, I would have to drive them. So it's like there's 4 different schools. And then you add on the sports on top of that, all at different locations. It was, and then if you have to run an errand, but just survival mode.
Yeah, Uber mom, like Uber mom overload.
So many parents dread when they're 16, when your oldest turns 16, handing them their license. And I think I was nervous for 40 seconds. Bye. Get some groceries on your way home.
You have to drive by yourself now.
Yes. Pick up your brother and your sister and get the groceries on the way home too, right? Yeah.
And eliminated 5 trips down the driveway.
Exactly. But that was a whole nother thing. How dare I ever ask for help? The mentality, I think, of the whys behind a lot of it too, because there's more to, I'm just busy with everybody else. I lost myself. There's a reason why. And for me, it took, years of therapy and courses and books, and even getting certified as a life coach was a huge, huge eye opener for me. How, even though I always felt like a very confident woman, very outgoing, I love people, and there was a big part of me that really struggled, obviously, with my self-worth, because I was trying to fill all of that worth and that value through doing things for other people. And it catches up to us. So,
for sure.
Yeah. And just having very weak boundaries because of it, because thinking, I could never ask for help. how dare I? You're the one that has 4 kids. Take care of them yourself. I really truly thought that.
We had those kids.
Really. And I remember, if anybody would ask me, hey, can you pick up my kids or do that? Oh, sure. That's no problem. Or if someone would offer, I'm leaving practice, I'll bring your kids home, or I'll do this for you, do that for you. Oh, no. You live further away than me. I will go do it. No worries. And I look back now, I'm like, what was I thinking? And how we really back ourselves into this corner, but yet, we don't know how to get out of it, for one. And we think it's everything out there. Well, when this changes, when I have more time, then I'll do this, then I'll go find myself again. Once this chapter in my life unfolds, this new transition, I'll have more time for myself to do a hobby or that career I've always wanted, or it's never going to come. The perfect time will never come.
Yeah. It's kind of like when people say, we'll start having kids when we have this much money in the bank, or we both have careers, or we have the house bought, or whatever. It's like,
Right.
well, yeah, but then, right?
I'll find my purpose when I'm
when I'm 60.
Better find it now.
Kids are grown. After the kids,
and that's the thing.
Purposes, right?
It's never, there's always something. By then it'll be something else. And to really remind yourself, it sounds cliche, but you only have one life to live. When are you going to start to live it?
Yeah. And that is, are you listening, people out there? Because yes, we are most of us here listening are in the middle of our lives. What we interpret as sort of the middle of our lives, 40s, 50s, 60s. And of course, none of us ever know how long we're going to live. I hope to be the 100-year-old lady someday, that's still cool and enjoying her birthday cake, but we don't know. And so at least half our physical lives are over, at least, and maybe more so. And it's like, we've waited so long already. What are we waiting for now? Like, if we're not going to learn how to properly love ourselves, and how to learn to be comfortable with what we label as selfish, which isn't, it's actually generous to other people. Right. Because when our cups are full and overflowing, then we are more available and have more energy and delight in loving other people and investing in other things that we value and so forth. So yeah, if not now, when? Like, when is the light bulb going to go off in our heads that we know it's okay? I mean, you're learning that, I'm learning that. I think we're living that pretty well at this point in our lives, but boy, so many are not. And I want to help them see that it's really okay. It really, really is,
And you don't arrive at this state. Yeah, it's not that you learn and then, life's going to be just great. It's smooth sailing from there. There's always opportunities, we'll call them, to get sucked back in. But the difference is when you're aware, I'm not living in line with me right now. I'm not living in line with my values. I'm not doing things that fulfill me and are important to me. I'm living through other people right now. To be aware of that, catch yourself, and really ask yourself, what do I need? And it goes back to, everybody's heard the whole oxygen mask thing before, but it is so true. And it's suffocating when you do not put on your oxygen mask and just take that time for yourself. It reminds me, the whole self-care sort of thing too. I look at that a lot different now than I ever have, because you can fill up the bathtub and put all the bubbles in there and you can go in there with all your problems. When you get out, they're still there. You're just cleaner, right? So it's finding, what does self-care truly mean to me? I'm not saying that I don't like to go get a massage or have a bubble bath or a pedicure. Those are all great things. But is it
Don't
at
be
the
putting
end of
down
the
my bubble bath, Jamie.
right? No. Go for it.
No, but I know you're onto something here. Let's hear
Yeah,
it.
I think the thing is really, really ask yourself, what makes me feel really good? And it's not always these great, big, grand things. A couple things. I mean, I ask myself this a lot, and I can tell when I have those days where I'm off. I feel, say, unaccomplished, or just I can't get in my groove or my vibe. And when I look back at my day, I like to get up, about 5:20. I'd like to have quiet time by myself, uninterrupted, with my coffee and like my devotionals and a little bit of journal. I like to get a workout in before I go wake anybody else up. It's these normal little routines, and I almost call them like your own little traditions you do with yourself, but they're just these daily little habits. If they are so important, and it really has to speak to you, and we need to protect them. I even, I'm going to use like the little morning routine. I could go through the whole day of just some little specifics that I like to, sprinkle in there. But even with a morning routine, I'm a runner. I've always been very active in Michigan in the winter. Sometimes it's hard. So I will just go down in the basement and work out real early morning before anybody's up. But I also like to, when everybody gets out of the house, go for a run or something like that. I purposely do not schedule any appointments until, at least through that like 9 to 10 o'clock time, because I know when I give up certain things, I don't function well. And when we don't take care of ourselves, we project that all over the place. And I know
you honor those routines and traditions you have with yourself. It's very
yes.
loving to yourself and to everybody you love, because then again, you're going to show up differently.
Completely.
When you loved yourself and you've allowed yourself to be you.
Yeah. And a couple quick questions, and I love this. And I think everyone should think about these questions. I don't care your age, but especially middle age. What am I doing for myself physically today, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Check something in every box. It doesn't have to be big. It can be very small.
I love that. Yes. So
and just even mentally, what am I thinking? What's going through my head? Am I ruminating? Am I stewing on something forever? And what am I going to do about it? I need to work through this so I can let it go. It's tiny little, staying present with yourself too, all day long, but checking those little self check-ins, right? That's self-care to me. How am I caring for my body physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? And when you are really aware of it, it's not work. It just, your day flows that way. You get in your pattern and your flow and your habit. And that is one way. Don't ghost yourself, right? Stick with that. Don't be a sellout. We have to be so careful. There's a lot of judgment and criticism around the whole, everybody's so selfish nowadays and this and that. And no, it's not taking care of yourself. It's putting everybody else before. I mean, you can play that game and get in the fight, but your body is going to let you know how you feel, and it's not even necessarily putting yourself first. It's more along the lines of staying in tune with yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't it interesting? As mothers, for example, so many of you out there are mothers. You didn't think it was selfish of your kids when they were hungry to eat.
Right.
You didn't think it was selfish to make sure they had rest, right? You didn't think it was selfish to set up their play dates or let them join activities that they were passionate about. I mean, and what do we say to our girlfriends? Oh, go for it. Yeah, you should. Yes, do that. Take that adventure, take that trip, take that time out for yourself, whatever, da, 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 da. So we know this, like we know the value of this. So when we turn it inward, it's like we want to make sure we are at peace with with giving ourselves this kind of honor every single day. I love what you said about ask yourself every day, stay aware and intentional about how can I take care of my body today? How can I take care of my mind? How can I take care of my emotions? How can I take care of my spirit? All those things today, and honor and nurture those things. It's so important. And I
Mhm.
don't know about for you, but I mean, this isn't about blame, but I don't recall seeing my mom's generation or my grandmother's generations really having these conversations or doing this. Like I saw them lovingly serve their
Mhm.
families, their communities, their churches, their husbands if they had husbands, their
Mhm.
children, of course. I mean, and working hard, working on the farm or working at the office and cleaning the house and just taking, I think, pride in a lot of loving service everywhere, which bless them all, but I don't know that they were sitting at home thinking, gosh, what have I done for myself today? Now maybe they were, and of course I was young. I don't know. Maybe we just weren't aware of it, but I don't recall learning from watching the women in older generations around me to take care of myself.
Mhm.
What about you? Did you see self-care in the older generations in your life that you recall at all or no?
Looking back, I feel there's a lot of women that stand out, whether it was, family or say my parents' friends that were, very close with the families,
Mhm.
even into high school, the mom figures of my friends. I was always that kid that loved being at my friend's house, right? And I always loved the moms and things. And so I feel like I had a pretty good variety of it all. And I've always loved to kind of study people and think, why do you do what you do? What makes people tick, sort of thing. But now, obviously, I look at it from a different lens. Looking back, I can definitely see the women that were self-sacrificing in a way that was self-destructive.
Mm.
But I also see how we can serve, but also serve ourselves and
Mhm. Mhm.
stay in line with ourselves and really care and love for ourselves too.
Mhm.
And watching that and looking back and seeing where a lot of those women are today, I see a difference because the complete self-sacrificing type of woman ends up, my opinion, sometimes
Mhm.
resentful and kind of bitter, and their relationships aren't always real healthy. I do see that a little bit.
Keeping
Um,
score. I see keeping score in women or people who've,
Absolutely.
you know,
And maybe, and the thing is, we so often we do it out of duty or obligation. I serve you, but it doesn't come from a full place of just love. And I think when you serve from a place of love, you still serve, but
yes.
your motives are pure. There's no strings attached. It's not an IOU or I'm going to hold this over your head. This is what I've done for you now. And I've actually said those words to my kids. You don't owe us anything. I mean, besides respect, right? I mean, but I don't do things for you because I expect something in return. If I expect anything in return, it means I'm doing it because I have strings attached.
Yes.
And
It's
I don't want to
mutual.
give from that place. And I think it's a really good question to ask ourselves before you do something, before you say yes, whether it is stepping up on another board or committee, volunteering, or doing an act of kindness for a stranger or a family member or whoever.
Mhm.
Why am I doing this? What is my motive? Are my motives pure? Because even if we are expecting something as little as the words, thank you,
Mhm.
check
Yeah.
your motives. because of course I raise my kids with manners to say please or thank you. And it's polite out there in society to hear a please and a thank you. But if I do something for someone, no matter if it's a grand gesture or something small, and I don't get so much as a thank you,
Mhm.
would I change my mind? The answer is I should be doing it regardless if I get a please, a thank you, a cartwheel, or a handwritten letter. Really, truly though. Yeah. Does it feel good to say, oh, I appreciate that you did that. Thank you. Of course it does. But is it required for me to be me? I should be doing it because it's who I am. It's who I want to be. And I think that definitely comes with age. And when I look back at my younger years and the women or the mothering, figures in my life, and there's a lot of them, I can see who gave and from what place they gave from. And I
Yes.
know where I want to give from. And I know, in the years to come, I want to look back and feel good about the ways that I served, because we do need to make sacrifices. There are things that happen in life and you do need to make a sacrifice. It's not all about me, but again, it goes back to your motives.
Yeah, I love, you've said so much there. I think that's so critical and important. And one of the things I want to highlight is to give and serve from a place of love and joy, like to really like that, let that be like one of the deciding factors, right? When you ask yourself that, why would, if I'm saying yes, what's my real reason? Like, what am I looking for here? And hopefully it's to serve and give with joy and love, right? And one thing I learned about appreciation, this is kind of, I think, a funny story, but so my beloved was away one weekend last summer for 4 or 5 days. And I thought, okay, I'm going to deep clean the house. I'm going to take care of the yard this way and that way. And I'm going to get that done. We've been needing to get done. And I'm just gonna like pump it out like all weekend. So when he comes home, he'll be, so thrilled. He'll appreciate this so much. He'll be so grateful, and he can just relax, because when he's been gone for several days, you don't want to come home and like, oh no, now I've got to mow, now I've got to put, now I got to, it'll just be done. And he can waltz in after his vacation and just, ta-da, right? And so I did all this stuff. Oh my gosh, the list. I did all this stuff. And when he got home, he was really super tired. His flights were late, so he didn't say a word, just pretty much needed to go to bed, which I did. But the next day I thought, okay, now he's going to notice, because everything's sparkling, right? This is so obvious, right? He didn't say anything, but he did notice something I did not do that I didn't get done, and pointed it out to me. He said, oh, sweetie, I've asked you a couple times to, da. I mean, this was a 5-minute thing. It just left my mind that I didn't think of doing it.
Oh boy.
And I was furious, because I thought, I worked my fingers to the bone all weekend while you were off in Pennsylvania having a great time, and all you can do is come home and say, oh, sweetie, you didn't do it. I was just blah, blah, blah. But when I settled down, I reeled it in, I really learned something valuable. I mean, of course he did notice and appreciate ultimately. I did massively, and I appreciated what I did. I was grateful for how I felt so good about it too. That the house looked great, the yard looked great. I love being in an environment that feels ordered and cleaned, and that felt really good. But what I realized is I was looking for him to appreciate me, like as if I needed him to give that to me, for me to experience that. So in other words, looking outside of myself for whatever validation, appreciation, noticing my own good or whatever. And so I think that's where you're going here in this conversation, is like, whatever we think we have to get from the outside by saying yes to something or by doing this or that, we need to give to ourselves. So I did this whole journaling on that day about appreciating myself and really learning how to appreciate me for me, and not expecting you or Ed or the, whoever, the neighbor, the family member, the friend, to validate me. Instead, to love the self and appreciate the self. And so I think that's just been a really, really good lesson for me in the last, I think that was July when that happened. And it's really served me well. And
Right.
so I invite other women into that with their relationship with themselves. Like you're saying, don't ghost yourself, be in touch with yourself and love yourself.
And a lot of it is deconditioning from what we saw or what we picked up on growing up, because, and I don't know if you have witnessed this, but it doesn't necessarily have to be what was in your household. What you pick up on is what you pick up on for whatever reason, however you translate it in your head. You could be, a model to your mom or your grandmother or your aunt, but maybe you're totally different. And it could be personality, the nature versus nurture or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's finally being aware of what is serving me well, what isn't. And so many people, I think, were blinded by that. And you finally sitting down, you know what, I did all this. Of course you did it as a service to him a little bit too, to, have this all done. You didn't want him to stress when he came home, but what it created in you all those days that he was gone, you felt good about what you accomplished, and keeping that forefront of, regardless of his response, I still feel good, and no one can change that unless I allow them to.
Yes.
That is a work, I think, in progress for everyone from, birth to death. It's a practice.
It's a practice. It is. It's not like a college degree and we have it and then we always have it. These kinds of things you and I are talking about are an evolution throughout every day, every week, every month, every year, every season in our lives. So as we're kind of winding down here in our conversation, as you look forward, into the next, these next few years or whatever, these wisdom years we call them or whatever, like what would be something you're looking forward to or encouragement that you have for women out there as well?
For me, I'm going to speak personally here. My biggest goals, because I do think this resonates with a lot of women, is be true to you and stay real authentic, because that is where you find your sweet spot. If you're wanting that inner peace, you have to stay in line with that. You have to know who you are. You have to really spend time. We spend so much time trying to develop relationships outside of us, but what has to happen first is really focusing on what kind of relationship do I have with myself. And a lot of that includes, especially at our age, getting to know ourselves again. We are not the person we were, decades ago. We are still part of that person. So maybe it is going back. What did I used to like to do? What lit me on fire? Do I, is that something that I need in my life? Really start exploring. Like when you meet someone for the first time, you ask questions, right? You get to know them. So over the years, we feel lost. We don't know what our purpose is. So why don't we treat ourselves like how you were speaking earlier? You never talk to your friend this way or this or that. Well, what would you ask a friend or someone that you were just getting to know? You would ask them these questions. It sounds silly, but sit down and start asking yourself some questions. It's the basic things like, what do I really like to do in my free time if I have it? What interests me? What is, is my life if you look around, did I design this life or did someone else? Who's pulling me? Where do I want to go? It's this, and it can be fun.
Yes, it's an
really, yeah.
Discovering or rediscovering whatever, but yeah, asking ourselves powerful questions.
Yeah. And I think freedom comes with that too. It's the freedom to step in to ourselves.
Yes.
It's and it really, truly, it is so freeing and liberating to just be yourself.
Yes, it is. It is
Mhm.
so freeing to be ourselves. Yeah, and celebrate our uniqueness instead of worrying how we might be different. We're not like just the other people in the neighborhood or whatever
Right.
it is.
Because they're worrying about themselves, right? What?
Exactly, exactly. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, is there anything else you want to share, Jamie, before we wrap it up? This has been a
Wow.
fun conversation.
it, I think we need to get past the cheesiness of self-love, because just just caring for yourself in general, that's what self-love is about. And it's love yourself like we try to love other people. And you know what? You're actually going to love the people in your life a lot better. You're going to be a better person. And when we really step into ourselves and develop a really healthy, loving relationship with ourselves, most of those outside problems, they melt away.
They do, because when we're full, we are filled with that inner joy, that authenticity, that true love for ourselves. Other people can't drain us. It's not draining to love others. It's like a privilege. It's a pure joy to just let that ripple effect play out. And
I think of accountability too. It's really being accountable for yourself and giving the freedom, to other people to be accountable for themselves, right?
sure.
Yes.
Oh, Jamie, gosh, we could talk all
I
day.
know. Lots of wisdom here, huh?
Full of wisdom.
It comes with age.
Yes, that is one of the goodies, right? Like,
So true. Yeah.
yeah. Guest Dr. Carrie Graham recently said, one of the midlife goodies is that wisdom that comes. So thanks for
Agreed.
sharing so much of yours here with us today. And what's your website? We'll put it in the notes too, but tell people where they can find you if they're interested in your coaching or connecting with you in any way.
Super simple, just jamieberris.com. And I too started a podcast recently called Authentically Raw. So it's fun to be on this journey with you and support each other, because I'm a big believer in your win is my win, and there is abundance out there to be had. So yes, thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And yes, you heard it here. Authentically Raw is Jamie's podcast, and her website is jamieberris.com. That's JamieBerris.com. Thanks again, Jamie. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Life Makeovers podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with those that you think would also benefit from what we're doing here. And I will talk to you again soon.